I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how. If you want to learn how to make more money with your indie films, subscribe now. Today, I'm going to share my current strategy for making a living as an independent filmmaker. Basically, I'm going to tell you how I'm doing it. And this is completely off of the movies, nothing else. No freelance work, no contract work, just making movies. So why did I call this episode A Tale of Two Filmmakers? I'm just one guy. Because I'm able to make my living working on two completely separate filmmaking tracks. One is ultra low budget, quickly made documentaries. The other is narrative, slightly larger budget features, which take me a bit longer to complete. See, I used to pretty much just make narrative features exclusively, but over the past year, the documentary thing has become my general bread and butter. I've completed almost 20 of them in the past 12 months, and they comprise about 80% of my income. And it took me a good minute to figure out how to make and market these things, but I did. Now, when I first got going, for the first, say, 3 or 4 months, I really didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just made as many of these documentaries as fast as I possibly could. A dog rescue doc, a filmmaking doc, an anxiety doc, documentaries on Brexit, online dating, racism in the UK. I made them fast and on as many different subjects as I could. And I pretty much now consider those first 6 or so documentaries I put out market research. And I was making them so quick and inexpensively that I wasn't too upset with the ones that didn't really earn. But lucky for me, just like with the old movie studio model, the movies that did earn more than made up for the ones that didn't. I suppose the main takeaway here is the importance of numbers. If you're putting all your eggs in 1 or 2 baskets, you're most likely in for a world of disappointment when it comes to filmmaking. You can have all the preparation and research in the world, but there's no substitute for experience. And today's marketplace is changing more rapidly than ever before. You need to have products out in it now to see how they're performing. It actually kind of cracks me up to hear some other filmmakers that have 1 or 2 movies out and go on almost dogmatically about the sales and distribution process when the only data they have is on that 1 or 2 movies. Having one success or failure doesn't really give you a complete picture of the business in general. In fact, it can be quite the opposite. It's really only through repetition and trial and error that we truly get a good education on the film marketplace. Anyway, back to the docs. So when I started out, I was doing these things lightning fast, like 2 weeks or less per project. And I did realize that the ceiling on quality and overall reach would be limited. But in getting some of these things out there, it really allowed me to test the marketplace and marketing strategies. And again, in my case, I got lucky on 2 or 3 of these, and I was in the black after month 3 of all this. So I kept tracking. And more importantly, I started figuring out ahead of time what would earn. And this has allowed me to take a little more time making these movies. Instead of rocking out 3 or so a month, I cut it down to 1. This has allowed me to work more on the quality of these movies and their marketing campaigns. And lo and behold, my next batch of movies, while fewer, earn dramatically more money. How much more? In the last 2 months, I've more than doubled my income based on the performance of 2 of these documentaries. And in addition to the extra time in production and post, I spent much more time in market research before even picking the topics. See, I went from dog docs and anxiety and branched out into more paranormal stuff. I did a few Bigfoot and UFO docs, and they are doing very well. And I'm now working on a true crime documentary and another supernatural crime documentary, as well as a follow-up to the Bigfoot and alien stuff that combines both genres. Over the course of the last year, I've been able to get a steady income stream coming in from just these documentaries, which leads me to phase 2, narrative features. Now, I've been making narrative features for about 20 years now. I've had some very successful narrative features. I've also had some fail. And, I've had years where, I've lived pretty well off them, and I've had years, well, not so much. But I still love making them. And I attack them completely different from my documentaries. See, I don't make these fast. Well, not anymore. Because of the steady income stream I have from the documentaries, I can now do 1 of these a year, tops, and it may even take me a little longer. I still keep the budgets low, but I may spend exponentially more time on them. And while I still take the same care in market research that I do on the docs, and I promote them just as hard, I am not dependent on them for income. This allows me a ton of creative freedom and a respite from the performance pressure that comes with needing to make your money back. And it gives me a chance to really scratch that one for me itch. I now look at narrative features for me as purely passion projects. If they earn, that's great. But if they don't, I'm not exactly dead in the water. So doing both types of movies allows me to be both business savvy and a full-blown, hey, I'm just an artist making my movie guy. And I've found in the last year that I actually enjoy both equally. So what about distribution? This is where it gets a little tricky. In the past, on my narrative features, I was pretty much a strictly traditional distribution guy. I had done self-distribution very rarely, honestly never on a first run. I would just do it after the license expired, and then I might take a couple of territories like Amazon and see how those do. On the documentaries to start out, I was strictly doing DIY distribution through outlets like Amazon and FILMHUB. Now, even just a few months ago, Amazon was still paying on a sliding scale. I had no movies that were earning the 1 cent an hour. Everything of mine was doing at least 4 cents an hour, which I know sounds low, but you gotta remember that my movies were streaming millions of minutes a month, a piece. So I was earning a good chunk of my profits on these first movies from Amazon alone. So even though I was in other markets and platforms, I was making the bulk of my profits on these first movies from Amazon alone. After uploading myself to Amazon US and UK, I'd use FilmHub to fill out Amazon Rest of the World, the other English-speaking territories, and other platforms like Tubi TV. But then Amazon pulled the rug out from under every movie with a CER of under 50%. They were now only earning 1 cent an hour. So I started to focus more on FilmHub and those other platforms, and I started exploring traditional distribution once again, which led me to discover indie rights. So this is my current plan, and this is for movies produced under $50,000. My current plan is I give indie rights, a traditional distributor, a first look at any projects that I feel are in the upper half of my output. So far, I've submitted 2 projects to them, and they've taken both, and they got them both into the marketplace in less than a week after I had submitted them. Big change from the 2 months I'd been waiting on Amazon alone. Then I take any films that they don't want or I just don't think are right for them, and I upload them myself through FilmHub. And yes, that includes Amazon US and UK. That's right, I am done with Prime Video Direct. I no longer upload anything directly to Amazon. I'm going to do a whole video on this next week that digs a little deeper into that. But for now, just know that I am done dealing directly with Amazon. Now, don't get it twisted. My movies will still be on Amazon. I'm just no longer placing them there myself. If you want to learn how to make more money with your indie films, subscribe now. And don't miss out on extra content and a bunch of cool stuff over on my Patreon. I'm starting a new tier over there where I'm going to help other filmmakers develop a marketing plan for their work. But whatever you do, keep making movies.